Well. It's your boy back at it again. Just a little bit over a week, I guess, just about. I guess we're still in the margin for just about every week podcast. Still trying to keep up with everything. Still got the kid, but I'm doing pretty good. This podcast is a little bit weird. I've been trying to collaborate my thoughts into what I thought would be a podcast, and it ended up being so many different podcast ideas. And then I stopped and said, why don't I just try to collaborate into one thing, since they all really stem from one core subject. So today for episode 10, I present to you black people stuff. Yeah, it's a little different, but I mean, just bear with me. So it all started when there's been a big movement these past, I guess I would say, decade. There's been a big push in certain demographics, and it's a good thing, So we had the push with the Spanish community with Trump. We had the push for women's rights, which was fantastic, the big Hollywood scandal. We had a push for the Black Lives Matter, pretty much the agenda of that. And of course now around this time we're having a push for teens and younger adults rights and stuff like that with all the gun violence. And I find that all this stuff is very interesting. It's like I don't want to say a revolution as far as that, but it's great to see people getting out and voicing their opinions. I think it's fantastic. But clearly, out of all those, what pertains to me the most, of course, is the black movement. If you didn't know, I'm black. I'm 75% black, 25% Italian, if you want to get into the specifics. But so it pertains to me the most clearly, from what I know. So I sat down and I was thinking about police brutality, Black Lives Matter, just the basic human rights and all that stuff. And I sat and I said, let me just throw it in here. So let me start from, I guess, square one. Black Lives Matter. If you don't know, I mean, everyone knows who Black Lives Matter. You have your opinion on it set in stone. And I want to just clear up a couple things, just to give you insight on what a black person thinks about Black Lives Matter and my idea of Black Lives Matter. And you really have to get to the core subject. I went and I did my research and I looked at what the agenda of Black Lives Matter is to judge it. And this was a while ago, because when it first started, it was like Black Lives Matter. I don't really know what that is. All I just see is Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. And so that's why I did the research and stuff like that. And their agenda is actually multiple steps. They want to prevent police brutality against black people, promote political background for black people, and there was some reparations, promote reparations, all that stuff. They're trying to reach certain goals within the black community, which is great. My opinion on Black Lives Matter is I think it's fantastic to sit there and to rally a demographic of people for one cause is fantastic beyond any means, especially if it's not promoting violence. Clearly it is going in the right direction. The funny thing about what I think about Black Lives Matter is you have certain people who have such nasty ideas about it, who say, Black Lives Matter, my friend so and so, he's doing good, he's black, and you really kind of need to understand both sides and look at it from both sides. And it irritates me so much when people take one instance and they say, this is a reason for it. And you can have your opinion, you can have your ideas, but you need to look at the grand scheme of things. Now, I know, and I'm going to tell you personally, there's some dumbass shit that I've seen in Black Lives Matter. There's some fucking ignorant shit that I've seen in Black Lives Matter. And, 99% of it, or, 90% of it, was not even done by the organization Black Lives Matter. You have, of course, you had the riots in Maryland. You had people vandalizing cemeteries and houses, and writing shit all over this. Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. You had celebrities like Chris Brown. I forgot what happened with him in his house, and police were there. It wasn't his fault, but he's like, Black Lives Matter, fuck the police and all that shit. You need to understand that is not the core organization of Black Lives Matter. There are fucking ignorant ass black people who do shit and say Black Lives Matter. That's the fucking truth. That's really what it is. Like, there's ignorant ass people who do dumb ass shit and say Black Lives Matter at the end of it, to justify it, to promote it, to increase their probability. Like, I feel empowered. I feel like I have to do this. Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. You have a right to call dumb shit out. As a white person, as another black person, as a Spanish person, anybody, you have the right to call out stupid ass shit. So it's okay to say, look, this dumbass person wrote Black Lives Matter all over these graves. That's fucking stupid. That's dumb. It's wrong to say, look, this dumbass person wrote Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is retarded. It's dumb. Their movement is stupid. Pick apart the pieces and understand what you're coming from and do your research. That's the most important part. Now, there was an instance where Bernie Sanders was speaking, and this is the official Black Lives Matter group, and how they stormed the stage. They're like, hey, we want to talk, we want to promote, you have to let us talk. That was also ignorant. That was an official Black Lives Matter thing, but that was also stupid as shit. People make dumbass mistakes, especially when they think they're in the righteous moment. So, excuse me, I had a burp. So I understand that. That too was stupid ass shit. You have a right to call that out. But understand both sides. You can't sit there and say, hey, this is stupid that you want a certain equality or certain rights, or, oh no, you have enough black people doing this, especially when you're not in that demographic, and especially if you don't know anything about it. Pick and choose your words and decide what you want to say, and have background on the information, and say, look, well, I just think this way because it's so and so, not, oh, it's dumb because I think these people they got enough, or reparations. Personally, I think reparations is next to impossible, and it makes sense, but it's kind of dumb depending on how you want it. Straight giving people cash and then have to track it back, that's a little bit stupid. I understand the meaning behind it, and it makes sense, but to implement it doesn't make sense to me. So, the Black Lives Matter thing, I think it's very important. I think it's very important that they keep pushing and they keep rallying. Some of the rallies are, silent protests are great. Sometimes they block traffic. I'd be fucking irritated by that shit too. But when you think about it, when people are dying, and I've seen this stuff, like it's you can't tell me that some of this is not wrong. You can't tell me the videos you've seen, oh no, he deserved that. I've seen some ignorant ass shit in comments below these videos. Oh, well, because the black his dad didn't do. Just ignorant ass shit that doesn't make any fucking sense, and it really brings out, you can see the evil in people. You can have your ideas about something, you can call someone ignorant, choose your words in the argument, and just understand that there's a time and a place. That also affects how I perceive it. So with that said, along one of the agendas of Black Lives Matter was police brutality. I'm just trying to flash through all this stuff real quick because I got other stuff to talk about, and also I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to create separate podcasts for this. I just want to jam it all in one. So, police brutality against black people. You can't tell me there is not a layer that is, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess like shady or underlining. There is a type of shady underlying layer in the type of police brutality against black people. That is true. And again, I want you to really understand there are some dumb ass, ignorant ass motherfuckers who do stupid ass shit. And you got a lot of people, he's doing this to him, and I understand he might have killed a cop, he might have stabbed someone. So I understand that. Again, that's another thing we have to analyze the information. That is definitely true. Not every single case that I've seen, not every single case I've seen with a white officer tackling a black guy, and it was, the officer's fault. I wanted to go on record and say I have no problem with police. I don't give a shit. They're doing their fucking job. They irritate me when they stop me for speeding, but that's fucking life. But to give you a core example of how this, and it's funny because I never really thought about this in the context until years and years later. So I'm just I was driving from a party, I believe. I didn't have anything to drink. I was driving two friends who were who drunk or something like that. But I was perfectly fine. So I'm driving and I start going down a hill and I see a police officer. Personally, to this day, I don't think I was speeding. If I was speeding, I got a reckless ticket that day. I don't think I was reckless, but hey, I got no way of proving it. Honestly, it's just my car. I was driving a two-door car, red Integra, classified as sports car at the time, whatever. So he pulls me over. And right off the back, he pulls his gun out like he's, I don't know, having a bad night. He's irritated. And he starts yelling at me, and he's like, why don't you stop? And I was like, I did stop. I just stopped in the lit area, rather than on the side in the dark, right at this Walmart. He's like yelling at me, and he's being a real fucking dick. And his gun's pointed at me, and I can't turn my face because he's like yelling at me. And as soon as I turn my face, he's telling me not to move or something like that. So I'm just like what the fuck, man? The whole time he's being a real asshole. As soon as he understands that he's like, hey, what did he say? He said, I stopped you, and I'm like, officer, I don't know why. And it's like, cause you're fucking speeding. You think it's my job not to stop people and shit like that? Like, just fucking going off with his gun. His gun is in my face the whole time. So finally, he puts his gun away, and then, he proceeds to go right at me. I put my hands down. Comes back to the car. He's like, hey, I said you put your hands down. And all it's just dumbass shit. So. And then when he gives me my ticket, he's disrespecting me some more. I've been totally compliant and nice with this person. So, I give him his pin back, and he's like, snatches it out of my hands, like, yeah, give me my pin back, charge you with so and so. So I'm like, yo, what the fuck is wrong with this dude? So that happens, whatever. Me and my friends laugh about it. We laugh about it, to this day. And I started thinking about the context of the situation if I handle it different. If the police officer handled it different. Like, what if I reach inside my pocket too fast? What if I tell him, you're disrespecting my rights or something like that, and it turns into something ugly? What if I end up getting shot? And then the tabloids, it's like, hey, you get the typical tabloids, white officer shoots black male, and then there's the outreach and the outcry and all that. What I'm really trying to get at is there is an underlying shade, and it's hard to really to tell the difference between what's going on, between whether he was just an officer who's pissed or a white guy pissed at a black guy. Now, I highly doubt it that he was racist. I highly doubt that he, just doesn't like black people. I highly doubt that. What I think is a real core and asset is the training in the police officers. I think it needs to change. I think it needs to be molded a little bit differently to perceive it that, hey, I'm just an officer doing my job, not, hey, I'm angry at, someone of a different race. Because that's what we get. Say, if you're angry at me and I see that you constantly get angry with people of color on tape, I'm going to think, of course, you're racist. But you're probably just not. You're just probably fucking pissed at everyone. And it just so happens that we get the recordings of black people. That could just literally be what's happening. But I need people to understand that, think about it. As a police officer, you don't want nobody telling you what the fuck to do. Especially if you stop them. So I truly do get that. If I'm a police officer and I walk up to someone and they're questioning me and they're getting upset with me and I stop them for what I perceive that they did something wrong, of course you're going to get irritated. Of course you're going to get pissed. The problem is you have all these officers who act on their anger, and it's so clear in these tapes. It's so clear that they made a mistake. that mistake turned into something serious. But no one's gonna come forward and say, hey, I got jitterish, or hey, I stopped so many people of color and it's all turned bad. No one's gonna say that. So we have to piece together the stories and say, hey, this guy was racist. So I truly do get that. There might be some police officers out there who just don't like people of color, or honestly, I really think it's just most of them hey, colored people give me a bad time. But no one's gonna say that. So it all comes back to, it really just needs to come back to the basics of just training. I'm working at Subway. You come to Subway to buy a sandwich from me, and you can be a piece of shit to me. You can be disrespectful, and the best I can do is walk away upset. Clock out and go home, or maybe the manager will tell you to leave the store, but you got what you wanted. You wanted to come in, you wanted to insult me, I wasn't doing a good job or something. You technically won. So if you are a police officer, you have the ability to get the leg up on someone. You have the ability to cost that money, or cost that person time, money. You have the ability to win. And that's literally the core subject. You have the ability to win over this person 99.9% of the time. So police officers act on that. Look, I'm not gonna let you talk to me like that. Get out the car. Even though they might be infringing on your right, and you might also be being disrespectful, they're gonna get the leg up. They're gonna show you how I got the leg up, and that's just because they have the ability. They have the ability to do that. That's why they do it. So I see why it happens. I really do. I see why it happens. And I'm going to say it again, and I'll keep saying it. There are some ignorant motherfuckers out there who do ignorant, dumbass shit, and somebody will come and catch the end of the tape. I understand, and I know that. But there was I think it was a comedy special with Chris Rock who said something, and it was a joke, but it was hilarious. It was straightforward. He said, you can't be a bad police officer. Someone was like, hey, they can't all be good. And he says, you can't be a bad police officer. That's one of the jobs you can't do bad at. He's like, I think he said something about, it's like flying. You can't just be a bad pilot and you crash and kill some people and then they let you fly again. I was like, no, you gotta be a good pilot. You gotta be up to standards. And that's the same thing as police officer. You gotta be a passing police officer. There has to be literally someone at the end of training who handed your badge and said, look, we gave you 200% training on what to do in every scenario, to use your best judgment on things we haven't taught you, to uphold the law. Now I need you to understand that if you make a mistake and you cost someone their life, you will be charged accordingly. Do you understand that? And say, hey, yeah, like something to really drive the point home, because there's so many officers who make a mistake, literally who make a mistake. But yeah, again, I know the underlying tone. I know there's stupid ass shit that people do. I know there's dumbass people who are in the wrong, who think they're in the right, they ask questions. But there are people who are 100% right, and they are infringing on their rights as an American. They're infringing on their rights as just a human. I've seen it 1,000 times. I've been stopped 1,000 times. I've been stopped on the sidewalk walking home at night. And, I'm calm and polite, but literally they try to search me, try to search all my backpack and all that stuff, and literally they can't do any of that stuff. And then when you say no, this is right, then of course they get upset, and then that's where it leads into this and leads into that, and someone ends up getting hurt, or someone ends up getting shot or killed. And some people are like, oh, maybe he should just shut his mouth. So you're saying maybe I should give up my rights? Is that what it is? Anyway. Okay, so this is the part where I'm going to get into something a little bit different. And bear with me for a little bit. If I don't know if it's bother you or not, I'll try to put a disclaimer in it or whatever. And I just throw it out there to see how it is. So, to everyone, let's go over an important thing that's been a social issue forever: the N-word. A lot of people, of course, are upset. People who are not black, of course, they have this idea that, you know, they should have access to every word. They shouldn't be restricted. You know, if one person says it, I should be able to say it. And I find that kind of funny in certain terms. And I'll break it down for you, and everyone knows it, but it's kind of really hard to describe. In the community, in the black community, of course, we all say nigga all the time. That's just simple. When I was young, I grew up on a stretch of apartments called a highway, and primarily it's mostly black. And I lived in an apartment down the street too, and that was primarily black too. So where I grew up and where I was born is Indianapolis too, which is primarily black also. You know, I think it's funny when people think Indiana is a farm state. Trust me, the part I came from was not farm. So growing up, I mean, it was always, I was always surrounded by the word. Everyone always said it. And to this day, of course, primarily when I'm hanging out with old friends, I mean, I constantly say it all the time too. If you were to ask me if I say it now, yeah, I say it with my good friends. I say it with my Spanish friends. I say it with the friends I'm comfortable with that say it all the time. You know, I'm not constantly shouting it out all the time, but it does slip. It does, I don't know, it's just built in from, it's just what I know from all the years. If I'm with a certain amount of friends, sometimes I don't say it at all, you know. But to break it down and to really understand, you need to understand the core parts of both words, nigga and nigger, and what the difference is between them. So, for example, a white guy gets in an argument with a black guy. What do you think the last word that black guy wants to hear? Before you think about what's fair and what's not, what do you think the last word the black guy wants to hear from the white guy? No one in any terms wants to hear anything from a white guy, from a black guy, about nigger or nigga, regardless. Just because the tension and who's upset at who. I can say what upsets me personally is that I really don't give a shit about who says nigga at all. I've seen plenty of people. I have plenty of friends. I have plenty of white friends that say all the time. It doesn't bother me. It's just, it's a terms of endearment. It's a terms of like, you know, you're comfortable with this person. You're cool. That's your person. That's what you say to them. That's what they say about what happened and all that stuff. You know, it's just normal conversation. You know, I would say the majority of the black community doesn't mind any white person saying nigga at all, especially if they're good friends. So, what's the drawing point is nigger. You really have to understand that the word itself doesn't bother us at all. The way you use it and direct it towards someone is the key moment of why someone will get upset. Think about it. If I'm arguing with you and you say that to me, you have chose to dig deep down. You wanted to cut me. You wanted to use the worst thing possible to cut me. You wanted to get a leg up on anything, any part of the conversation. There's nothing after that. You wanted to put the nail in the coffin to really try to drive it home of how upset you are. So you chose to get an old word that no one says to anyone, really. No black person is going to call another black person nigger, ever. So you chose, the meaning behind it is why I would get upset. Because you chose, or you're trying to hurt me. You're trying your best to dig down deep and hurt me with something that you know and I know is not used in normal terms ever. So that's the only reason why it would really upset me. And to be quite frankly, even if a black person wasn't okay with a white person or anyone saying nigga, they can say it all themselves. A group of white people, a group of Spanish people, they can say it all to themselves. It's not bothering any of us. It's not bothering anyone. But you can't get upset how someone would be upset at you saying something to them that they don't like. It's the same thing as bitch or asshole or something like that. I don't want anyone calling me a bitch. Maybe it's like a, friendly conversation, like, listen here, bitch, something like, or like, my Jones, we joke around, we curse all the time, say, fuck you, just simple stuff, just, things, because we're just joking around funny. But think about it, in any conversation, if I'm, laughing with a black person, laughing with a white person, I'm like, oh, nigger, that's crazy, nigger. Like, think about it. It's not said. And you can argue and say they're so close to each other, but they're not the same word. Yes, they are very similar but they're not the same word. It was used many years to bring us down. We literally took in the word, changed it, and flipped around, and you can't get upset at that. It was derived from, I believe, Spain, as in the color black, and it's a big involvement. Like, again, I did my history on it. It evolved from slaves inside the house, what we call them, to like just an endearment and friendship of people out on the plantains and all that stuff to themselves. Like, it's a big thing behind it. But you really gotta understand, it's pretty plain and simple. No black person ever wants to be called a nigger. And I've heard it plenty of times. It doesn't bother me, like I said. But if I was in an argument with a person, white or black, shit, you say that to me, it's going to be a fucking problem. Period. Because again, you wanted to cut me hard. You wanted to cut me. You could have called me bitch. You called me an asshole, a motherfucker. You could have called me anything. A piece of shit, but you tried your best to dig deep and to try to cut me, and for that, on my end, I have to retaliate in some way. That's just the way I feel about it. And there's a lot of people out there, there's a big portion of the black community who want to eliminate the word and say, we don't want to say it, and that's fine. I promise you this though, I'll get every single person in the world to stop saying nigga, if you got every other person in the world to stop saying nigger. We can make that deal. I can do it right now. But you gotta bring up your end. Oh, it's impossible? Yeah, I know. It's impossible. So again, if you literally want it doesn't bother the majority of the black population if you say nigga. I have plenty of white friends. It doesn't bother. It's fine. We're cool with each other like that. So, I'm not saying like rejoice and say, say nigga all the time. No matter what you do, just have fun with it. Again, there's a time and place. Like if I'm chilling with, someone I just met and they're like, man, my nigga was like this. I'm like, I've never met you. It's kind of, I give them a funny face, but I'm not going to say you can't say that. You do what the fuck you want. It's your world. If you want to say nigger in your pillow at night while you sleep, then you can do the fuck you want. I'm not going to know. But you can't sit here and say, hey, it's not fair that you guys can say that and we can't. Well, say it. See what happens. Shit. You can't get mad if you're saying that to someone and they don't like it. You can't get mad if they don't like what you're saying to them. You can call someone a donkey and they can get super offended by that. You can't get mad that they're getting upset that you called them a donkey. It doesn't work that way. Yeah, a little bit different, this podcast. A little bit different. I didn't mean to ruffle any feathers or any shit like that, but I thought it was something I was really thinking about, and I was like, should I do it? Should I do it? But it's my fucking podcast, so I do what the fuck I want. There's that. Anyway, before I wrap this up, I've been thinking hard about. I'm actually thinking about doing, and now this is putting more on my plate when I'm already my plate's already full. I really want to do another podcast, but this one is a little bit more one is centered around video games mostly. There'll be other stuff like that, but because video games for me is like, if you saw or if you heard any of my other podcasts, you understand what video games mean to me. And I really listened to a bunch of other podcasts about video games, and honestly, I thought they were fucking garbage. Like there is a like a puzzle piece that's missing. You know, like it was just so dry and generic, and you know, they were talking about games for a little bit, and they went out and talked about other shit that just didn't give a fuck about. And I was like, man, these podcasts are garbage. I listened to one after another, and I was like, ugh, like none of these are like, I mean, none of this I'm enjoying. Like, I can't like laugh at these. I'm not having a good time. No, none of these got great personality. There was one though. It's called What's Up Games, or What's Good Games, or whatever. It's like 4 girls. They're fantastic. They're hilarious, and I love them. And I want to do something like that. The only problem is I want to do it with more people, but I don't have a person who is on my level of, I don't want to say that, not on my level of knowledge of video games, but someone who can counterplay me and has their ideas and stuff like that. You know, I have a bunch of friends who play games, but I don't have a person who I can say, hey, I played this game on PlayStation 1 back when I was in the, hey, I understand that, and who's up to date with the news and knowledge and stuff like that. So I want to put that together. I want to do it as soon as possible, but I really see it in a few months. I don't see it quick, especially when the baby grows up a little bit. But I really, 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 really want to push for that because it's something I want to do. I got so many ideas in my head. I got so many things I want to push. I want to push on Spotify. I want to push on, you know, Apple Music. I want to push my podcast with so much stuff, especially the video game one, and get a group of people who know what they're talking about. And I want to launch it from there. Like I just, there's ideas, and I just want to get it done like tomorrow. But it's patience and time. So I just got to get that. So that, just keep a heads up for that. I'm definitely going to put it out. And of course for this, I'm going to post this on my YouTube, post this on my Facebook. I would say follow me on Instagram and shit like that, but I don't fucking use it. I don't even fucking use my Snapchat. I got to get on that. Maybe promote all the video games I buy every week. I got to fucking get on that shit, but I work so many fucking hours in a week, so it's really rough. But yeah, I'll get it done. And that's it for today. That's episode 10 of Chocolate Cake. Man, I gotta really say that at the beginning and shit too. Keep fucking that up. But yeah, I like to end the podcast with a quote now, and this one I really like too. The quote is, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. And that's literally where I'm at right now, trying to launch out of my comfort zone and to create more content, create all this shit. But yeah, so I'm your host, Antonio Q Tomasello, aka Chocolate Heat, signing out.